Hello, beautiful sisters. Well, we have finally arrived. We have finally arrived at the death and rebirth portal. And the last video of me trying to film this topic got lost in cyberspace. So I'm just going to trust that the transmission is even more potent than the last one. When I pressed record the last time, I couldn't speak for a good 5 to almost maybe 10 minutes. I was just crying, realizing, oh, this is why I'm here on earth. This is my gift. To initiate people into death and rebirth. I'm a cosmic midwife for people to die onto their illusions, onto their false selves, and to be reborn into truth, into love, into peace. I'm still getting used to this not really being a topic that seems very appealing on the surface, you know? And yet I found this is the portal to gain access to what we're all looking for in this life, you know? Whether you call that God, unity consciousness, universal love, inner peace, enlightenment, happiness. All these things, all these different names for truly actually just one thing is found only here. So it takes tremendous courage to go there. That's also why it is a secret hiding in plain sight, because it is no secret. And yet, it takes so much courage to actually let go and to die before you die. That is why it kind of almost remains a secret. I just got my period today, right now before filming. Cannot be a coincidence. To be in the winter stage of my cycle, the cycle that represents death, the underworld, the descent, the darkness, the feminine, all that represents the death stage of dying and being reborn. People who commit suicide, who kill their physicality, they don't do so because they want death. They also don't do so because they do not desire to live. It's because they can no longer bear to live in pain, to live in suffering. And they understand that death is a way out. What is not fully understood in those cases is that literal or physical death is not the only option. Metaphorical death or ego death works just as well. And this is the kind of death and rebirth that I speak of. This is the kind of death and rebirth process that we all want to succumb to, want to surrender to. This is a death of your false self, of your ego. That's not to say a complete ego death and you need to go through life without ego. More accurate would be to say to die to your attachment to your ego, to thinking that you are that small self. So you can be in the world and you can play your small separate self. You can play out an ego character because that's fun, it's okay. But after having gone through a death and rebirth experience, you live simultaneously in the awareness that you are not that. You are not your small separate self. And so any pain that comes to you is an exciting opportunity, because you understand that all that is happening is simply a part of you dying. A small part of you is dying, is sacrificing for a much bigger and expanded version, perspective of you to take its place. This is what I mean when I say pain is a portal. So this death and rebirth process, this is not something that, like, oh, it's week 4, it's death and rebirth, here you go. No, this is going to happen in its own accord, in its own divine timing for you. With that being said, every day we can lean into our pain. Every single day we can prepare ourselves for when this opportunity knocks at our door. And the pain that is that immense pain that is necessary for us to experience a death and rebirth, it is there. It's just, we're so good at suppressing it that usually it takes something like a heartbreak or a loss of a loved one or depression or any kind of intensified pain for us to notice that it's there and for us to utilize it as a portal. But a lot of the practices that we do in inner make that we become more comfortable, more aware, more present with our pain on a daily basis. So that when the big one comes, we're less inclined to run straight the other way or to numb ourselves or to misinterpret its message and its portal potentiality. Whenever we're in immense pain is when we have the biggest opportunity for this death and rebirth. It's because when we're in immense pain, we're at the edge of the cliff. We're at the edge of the cliff into the abyss. And it is only by falling into the abyss, by fully letting go, that we discover we have wings. How will you discover if you have wings? If you don't jump, fall. Doesn't matter, really. That is a really good metaphor for death and rebirth. It will feel like you're falling to your death, and at a certain point you will discover your wings. It is only our holding on to that cliff, to that thing that we think is safety, security, that we create our suffering. Because we carry this pain with us. No matter who you are, no matter how you are, no matter where you are, we all carry this pain of being incarnated in human form, of not having our hearts wide open and connected to the divine. And you may ask yourself, well, how do I know? Oh, you'll know. This will not be a question. If it's a question, then that means no. Unless it's a full knowing inside of yourself that you have tasted divine love, that your heart is open. If there is a question, then the answer is no. So we carry that pain with us from birth. And it is our turning away from this pain. It is our turning away only towards the light, only seeking happiness and safety and comfort in the material world, that we create our suffering. Because it is this resistance that hurts. Pain doesn't actually hurt. Pain doesn't hurt. That's such a weird thing to say, right? Pain is just a physical sensation. Pain is just a raw sensation of aliveness. Why do you think some people enjoy getting hooks into their skin and being lifted up into the sky? Not that I would, but I understand. I understand because any type of pain is just a sensation. It is only our resistance, our story around pain, our turning away from pain that creates suffering. Pain and pleasure are one and the same, just as much as suffering and joy, dark and light, masculine and feminine, peace and passion. All these things come from one and the same source. It is only our thinking mind that creates a barrier of like, no, this is what I want to experience, this is what I don't want to experience, this is good, this is bad, this is positive, this is negative, this is light, this is dark. That split creates our suffering. So it is only towards turning towards that which we have shunned our entire life that we can integrate it. And it is this integration that is love. It is this middle way that is unconditional love, that is inner peace, that is happiness, that is enlightenment. On the deepest level. It is only by saying yes to pain and suffering that they cease to become pain and suffering, that they cease to be pain and suffering. This is what death and rebirth ultimately means, what it stands for. Is to die to your illusion of pain and suffering, of your mortality, and to be reawakened to the truth of your immortality while being alive. You die before you die. And I don't know from which tradition. Is it Buddhist monks? Anyway, there is some spiritual tradition, philosophy is to say that to die before you die, that's the secret to living, and that's what it means. Heartbreak, I think personally, at least in my experience, has been the most powerful portal. Why? Because it is in love, what we think is love, which is, trust me, it's not. It is severe attachment. It is in love, aka severe attachment, that we become the most vulnerable, that we become the most susceptible to having our biggest fear awakened. And so, when that attachment is severed, or we fear that it is, you know, when we experience fear within the relationship, or the relationship falls away, we have the opportunity to face our biggest fear, aka to die and be reborn. And particularly when it comes to matters of the heart, is that we die to the illusion of love, that we see that we've only been experiencing romantic projection, fantasy, and attachment, and we thought that it was love. And we can use this immense pain portal to let all those things die, to let the protective armor around your heart die. Yes, that hurts. Yes, that hurts. Me telling you these things is not going to make it hurt any less. This is just for you a little anchor to hold on to for when these processes come to you. Biggest gift ever. It is those things dying off that hurts tremendously. And when you go through that process, literally when you let that fire burn you, when you die in that fire of pain, which is love, you are reborn and your heart is open and your fear has died off and a part of your ego has died off. A part of your illusions has died off. and you're reborn in a new realm. And you're like, oh, this is what love is. To live with an open heart. Does that make sense? Does that start to touch upon pain is love? Tupac says love is pain. And I'm Tupac's biggest fan. He's a master number 22. He's basically an ascended master that came to us for a little bit as a rapper. He said love is pain. And I'm like, yes, and pain is love. When you add both of those, that's when you come to the centers, when you have truth, when you meet God. Pain is love? Yes, because pain is the dying off of your illusions. Pain is like little breadcrumbs leading you to truth, to God. It is only by fully being burnt in the fire of that pain that you become invulnerable, immortal, but invulnerable in the most vulnerable way. Invulnerable in the sense of you become completely open, and all the pain of the world will be able to reach you and penetrate you. But when that pain isn't a negative in your mind anymore, when it doesn't create suffering, then the more you allow that pain to enter you, the bigger the portal towards more and love and more love and more love. This is what it means to live in ecstasy. Yeah, drink this in for a moment. We're not afraid of pain. We're not afraid of death. We're simply afraid of losing a part of our identity. That is the fear that we feel. That is the suffering that we feel. Because we're afraid to let go. We're afraid to surrender. Whenever you're breaking down, this is when you're closest to God. Why? Because you're on your knees. It's when you're humble. When you get to a point where you're on your knees and you're just like, well, anything. I don't know what to do anymore. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. That is surrender. Because what God will always tell you, whatever it takes, whatever, is simply to say, accept this, go through it. Don't want to change it, don't want to fix it, don't want to heal it, don't want to make it better. You're already doing it. Anytime you find yourself on your knees, just stay there. Not in physical form, get up, live your life, but inside of you as a quality, stay on your knees. Be in a continuous prayer. Be in a continuous state of breakdown, of kneeling before God. Inner humility. And when your heart is broken, you say, thank you. Thank you for this gift. Thank you for this love. When you lose your house and all your money, oh, thank you, because that is spiritual abundance. Anytime you're in pain and you manage to surrender, you're reborn into bliss. But remember, you're not reborn into only bliss. You're reborn into a multidimensionality. You have an awareness of your pain on the human level, an awareness of your bliss on the spirit level. So it's not the kind of bliss that is avoiding pain. It's the kind of bliss that is completely open to life at all times. This is why in India there is sages and gurus living on the street, wearing nothing but a loincloth, covering themselves in the ashes of dead people. They couldn't care less. They don't think they're homeless, they're just houseless. They don't think they're poor, they live in spiritual abundance. They live in a continuous death and rebirth, and so do we. It's just our lack of awareness of it, and therefore trying to run away from that which we fear, but we don't even know that we're running away because we don't even know that we're afraid. We just feel very uncomfortable a lot of the time, don't we? It's because of a lack of awareness of we're continuously trying to distract ourselves, trying to numb ourselves, trying to fix ourselves from our pain. But every cell of you is continuously dying and being reborn. Nothing of you is consistently living. The whole planet is continuously dying and being reborn. One species has to die for a more evolved species to come through. So a part of you has to die in order for a more evolved version of you to come through. And it is only that less evolved part of you that is so afraid of dying. Every time I run up against pain, a deeper layer of my pain, because you would think there's an end to it. Like seriously, I've gone through so many deaths and rebirths, and in the most recent months, 2 times in a way that I thought, okay, this must be the bottom. No. And there is no end to it. There is no end. While you're incarnated, there will always be more pain because there will always be more illusion to separation, unless you're Jesus. Literally, because he died in the physical and came back. That's the ultimate death and rebirth. I'm not going to ask any of us to aspire to that. But that is basically what we're doing. Whenever you're in pain, you're on the cross, you're being crucified. And whenever you surrender to that, you come back, enlightened, more enlightened than you were before, at least. So every time I run into new pain, I'm so happy. A few nights ago, I was just crying so much. And I just fully leaned into it. And my whole face just became swollen, and my skin was just like weird, and my lips were swollen, and my eyes. And there was this beautiful track on that just so brought up so much pain and agony and longing. And I just put it on repeat for a few hours. I just wanted to cry and cry. And what I noticed is people don't really understand yet. When I told them about it, they were worried, they were, sending love. There's no need for sending love when you're in pain. It's very sweet, but I was in bliss as much as I was in pain. I was mourning, I was grieving the physical closeness with Tesfa, but at the same time I saw that the true gift of this connection and the true gift of letting go of the form was the opening of the heart. And the true love that was at the center of it, that was the gift. Not just us coming together. Us coming together was just as much a gift as us partying in the physical. And until you reach that state of awareness, until that is true for you, that people leaving you, for example, is just as much as a gift as them staying with you, then this has not fully landed. Then there is a lot, like the heart has not fully, the shell around the heart is not fully cracked open. And that's good news, because that means that is still for you to discover and to explore. And that means, however you're feeling now, you haven't even experienced life yet. That's good news, right? Somewhere in your future is a pain-pleasure portal, a death and rebirth portal. And you're going to experience what it's like to live life with a fully open heart. That's something worth celebrating. That everything that you've experienced up until now has just been foreplay. Has been blissful and not so blissful prelude. But again, there is no differentiation between bliss and non-bliss. That is bliss. Take a moment with this. I'll be right back. So yeah, homework. I can't give death and rebirth as a homework. The only thing I can give as homework, as preparation for this work, is for you to maintain a daily practice of unconditional presence with your pain, of leaning into your pain, of becoming intimate with pain and making pain sacred. Pain is the same as depth of living. You don't want to live on the surface. I know it feels nice and good to hang out there because you want happiness. But happiness is not the same as love. Happiness is not the same as fulfillment. Happiness is not the same as God. If you want happiness, go practice the law of attraction, and you'll easily attain that level of happiness. And there's no shame in that, absolutely not. If you want God, if you want to live as love and in love, if you want to taste the divine, if you want to embody the divine, then start leaning into your pain. And start creating little rituals. And you feel when the time is right. Whenever you run up against a little bit more pain, instantly honor it as a portal. Create a little ceremony If you're out, maybe put it on hold and wait till you get back home. And instead of meditating, set 30 minutes aside for you to fully go into your pain while keeping your heart open. Lean into your pain without creating any stories. Lean into your pain and let it soften you. So I'm going to help you with that. I'm going to provide you with some music. I'm going to feel into some guided meditations, although that is new for me. But in the end, all that is necessary is for you to treat your pain as sacred and to create a little sacred ritual for it whenever you are granted the opportunity. Create a little sanctuary, Go into your private space, or it's dark, maybe light a candle. Put on music that helps you evoke pain, that helps you dive and lean into your pain. And just die. Practice dying. It's not like I woke up one day knowing how to die into that pain portal. It took me years of withstanding a lot of pain. Definitely a big inner guidance. I didn't know what I was doing, but now having gone through it a few times, I do understand it. But still, it remains an inner ritual. No one can do it for you. Thank you, sisters.